All right, hopefully I'm streaming. I just set this up and haven't tested it, so I have no idea if this is working correctly. But I thought I would do a live stream because the JFK files came out. Well, they sort of came out. They somewhat came out. So I'm a little bit upset because the full... I mean, they had 50 years to release all the files. And then on the last day, they say, oh, no, we can't release all of them. And Trump folds, which was a little bit of a disappointment. And I'll tell you why. I said back in January that if the JFK files don't get released, because first, let's clear this up. They were scheduled to be released. Like, Trump didn't just one day decide, hey, I'm going to release the JFK files in October. That didn't happen. This was actually Bush Jr. was pressured into releasing the files. I don't know what originally they were going to come out in 2038 or something crazy like that, and so they pushed it up to a time when at least some of the people might be alive, which would be 2017. So at least that's my understanding of it. So this was going to happen anyway. And knowing that it was going to happen anyway, and knowing that they had pushed it so many times, I figured there had to be something in this, right? Like, there's no way you push it. I mean, what would be the point, right? So if Trump had delayed it, because some of the people are still alive, some of the people that at least I suspect are involved on some level, and that would include Bush Sr., who apparently is a sexual assaulter, we are now finding out. But the fact that he's still alive might be why we don't have the rest of the files, which is a little bit frustrating. So I told everyone back in January that if Trump does not release the JFK documents, that's a dead miner's canary. A dead miner's canary. That means, I don't know if you guys know the story, back in the coal mining days, miners would bring a canary in a cage down into the coal mines with them, so that if there was a carbon monoxide leak, that they uncovered because you couldn't smell it, it would kill the canary, and they'd be like, oh, holy shit, we got to get out of this mine. The canary's dead. So when Trump folded on the and I'm going to say it like, look, I'm a big Trump guy. Like, trust me, I helped that guy get elected, I have no regrets. Trust me. Like the alternative was so bad, right? But no, actually, I think he's doing a good job. But this worries me. It worries me because what could possibly have taken? It's 53 years later, and you just now remembered. Oh, we need to redact this, or we need to really. There's no possible way. I mean, there's just no possible way. There's someone's hemming and hawing over a juicy nugget that they don't want out there. And it's not like they didn't have time to get rid of anything that's good. So it's a little bit frustrating. It's a little bit more than a little bit frustrating. So according to Restream, Periscope's having trouble and YouTube might not even be working. So that's okay. I'm going to keep doing this. I think looks like Facebook is at least sort of working. So maybe I'll rebroadcast this. I'll rebroadcast this, the one from Facebook, if this doesn't work. So anyway, yeah. So down to let's go to the documents. So now that you know that the miner's canary is possibly dead, that's a little bit weird, and I think it might have to do with Bush Sr. still being alive. Basically, if you just go to my Twitter, which is @EvilHillaryPics, and I found some of the first documents last night. Last night I was posting these before they were going up anywhere. I've got the top a lot of the top threads in the Donald and on our Conspiracy and Reddit, and some of the bigger threads in 4chan were started by me in terms of the content. I'm not bragging. I'm just letting you know that if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, I was posting these to Twitter first, And so that's at Evil Hillary Pics. I also have at Black_pilled, but that's mostly just for videos and the website, which I, to be perfectly honest, haven't been keeping up with on the website. I'm trying to focus more on just YouTube stuff, and this live stream thing's kind of an experiment. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, the most important document out of everything that it was actually one of the first ones that I posted, it's a never before seen document, because some of these they had released in part before. So this document here is from the Church Commission, and this is top secret. This is top secret from the desk of J. Edgar Hoover. Okay? Now, this document right here has a couple interesting things. I almost want, it's pretty short, okay? Well, I mean, relatively. There's a couple things, though, I want to call out immediately. And basically what this is there's a source, a confidential informant, whatever you want to call it, within the Soviet Union after the JFK assassination, and this is just kind of like the intel they're gathering after the assassination, so they can kind of gauge how the Soviets are reacting and what they think and that sort of a thing. So this is pretty telling. So right now we have a source who has furnished reliable information in the past and who was in Russia on the date of the assassination of the late President John F. Kennedy, advised on December 4th, 1963, that the news of the assassination of President Kennedy was flashed to the Soviet people almost immediately after its occurrence. It was greeted by shock and consternation, and church bells were tolled in memory of the President Kennedy. According to our source, officials of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union believe that there was some well-organized conspiracy on the part of the ultra-right in the United States to effect a coup. They seem convinced the assassination was not the deed of one man, but that it arose out of a carefully planned campaign in which several people played a part. They felt that those elements interested in utilizing the assassination and playing on anti-communist sentiments in the United States would then utilize this act to stop negotiations with the Soviet Union, attack Cuba, and thereafter spread the war. So basically what it sounds like, and there's more in this document that kind of backs this up, but it sounds like JFK actually had a reasonably good relationship, or maybe a developing relationship with Russia at the time of the assassination. Okay, no one was celebrating. Everyone seemed pretty upset. They were ringing church bells, and they immediately thought, this isn't one guy. This is a coup, and they were worried that war might start. And you know what? In many ways, war did start. Okay, we had the Cold War immediately after this escalate and go on all the way through Reagan. Okay, so that's pretty important stuff right there. Now, that's just what the people think, right, and what the press thought. And but let's delve in here a little bit deeper. Okay, so right here, a second source who has furnished reliable information in the past advised on November 27, 1963, that Nikolai T. Fedorenko, the permanent representative to the Soviet mission to the United Nations, held a brief meeting with all diplomatic personnel employed at the Soviet mission on November 23, 1963. During this meeting, Fedorenko related, for the benefit of all present, the news of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and stated that Kennedy's death was very much regretted by the Soviet Union and caused considerable shock in the Soviet government. Federico stated that the Soviet Union would have preferred to have had President Kennedy at the helm of the American government. He added that President Kennedy had, to some degree, a mutual understanding with the Soviet Union and had tried seriously to improve relations between the United States and Russia. Federico also added that little or nothing was known by the Soviet Union government concerning President Lyndon Johnson, and that as a result, they started researching his policies. Now, you fast forward a little bit through here, and here's where it gets really interesting. I'm not going to read the whole paragraph. I'm going to just fast forward to or I am going to read the whole paragraph. So, on September 16th, 1965, this same source reported that the KGB residency in New York City received instructions that approximately September 16th, 1965, from KGB headquarters in Moscow, develop all possible information concerning President Lyndon B. Johnson's character, background, personnel, friends, family, from which quarters he derived his support in his position as President of the United States. Our source added that in the instructions from Moscow, it was indicated that now the KGB was in possession of data purporting to indicate President Johnson was responsible for the assassination of the late President John F. Kennedy. So the JFK, or the JFK, the KGB thought that Johnson was behind Kennedy's assassination. Okay, and this is immediately after, and this is the KGB, which isn't like some kind of chump change intel organization, right? So this is really huge. This is really huge. And this, like I said, this is top secret. This is coming from J. Edgar Hoover. So this, and he even says right in here that he's not telling the Attorney General. Right here, this data has not been furnished to the acting Attorney General. So this is some pretty secret stuff. Okay, so that is probably one of the most damning documents that we have right now. All right, that is out of all of them, that was kind of like the best one, and the rest of these some of these are pretty good too. But honestly, I think we really are going to have to wait until we get some of these documents that Trump is holding on to for right now. So you can find these on my, I have the links and everything on my Twitter. Like I said, highlighted the sections that we just talked about, the KGB, blah, 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 blah. And okay, so there's another document, and I haven't written the link down. I know that I'll find this. I'll track it down. I'll put it in the comments. But this was an FBI informant saying that, and he was being interviewed about Oswald, who had been seen with FBI agents on several occasions. And this informant was an FBI informant that was familiar with FBI agents, and so he knew who they were. And he basically said, I think I have a link in the next one, basically said that it was his understanding that Oswald, I'm sorry, this is the KGB in that same document, saying that they thought Oswald was either working for the FBI or just a crazy person. So this document, I'll put the links, or this one's on my Twitter. So that same document we were looking at, the KGB asserted that Oswald was working for the FBI at the time that he was in Moscow. So this one is the one I was talking about, and that's the link to it right there. So all of these have links except for that one on my Twitter. So this one is an FBI informant talking about observing Oswald in his restaurant. So in regard to the allegation that Lee Harvey Oswald was an FBI informant, Penna saw Oswald at the restaurant on Decatur and Iberville Streets in New Orleans in the company of other federal agents from the Customs House building. De Bruys, I guess, was among this group. Penna refused to say whether he ever observed Oswald and De Bruys speaking together. He believes the two knew each other very, very well. Penna saw Oswald and DeBruys and other government agents leaving the restaurant and going to the customs house building. When Oswald was transferred to Dallas, DeBruys was transferred to Dallas at the same time. All right, so we got, like, I'll be honest with you, I'm not like a JFK investigator guy. And to be perfectly honest, I largely thought that it was just the lone gunman until not that long ago, until we started seeing all this other corruption and I got blackpilled, essentially. So I've never really dug deep on the JFK thing, so we're going to have to dig into this DeBruys guy now, I guess, and find out what's going on with that. So DeBruys was transferred to Dallas. At the same time, Penna is very, very sure that DeBruys was... blah, blah, blah. Penna believes that Oswald was an agent of the U.S. government. So right there, we've got two accounts in the new documents claiming that Oswald was working for the federal government. All right. So now this was frustrating. Okay. So there's a lot of files like this, where just when they're getting interesting, they just cut off. So this is a deposition. So it's basically a guy interviewing a member of the Warren Commission about Lee Harvey Oswald, and my God, where it cuts off. So in the very front of every document, it tells you how many pages it should have, and this document is supposed to have 33 pages. Okay, as you can see at the bottom, it's page 4, which is really page 3 because the first page is a title page, and look where it cuts off. So right here we got Mr. Boleyn. Question. Well, now, the final area of my interrogation relates to the charges that the CIA was in some way conspiratorially involved with the assassination of President Kennedy. During the time of the Warren Commission, you were Deputy Director of Plans. Is that correct? Mr. Helms. I believe so. Mr. Boleyn. Is there any information involved with the assassination of President Kennedy which in any way shows that Lee Harvey Oswald was in some way a CIA agent or and then it cuts off? Really? Don't you think we need to hear the answer to that question? That is amazing to me. That is where it cut off. Okay? That is amazing to me. But yet that's where it cuts off. That is where it cuts off. So that's a little bit crazy. And, whatever. I guess we have to deal with that. So next up, we've got, there's me complaining about so this was just interesting. I doubt it's anything. But I found the name Clinton in this really bizarre map or whatever this is, this org chart. And so I just thought it was interesting. I have no idea what this is. I really have no idea. There's no reference. I mean, it doesn't say what it is. It's just like, oh, here's some random paper with like these names and arrows on it. And one of them's Clinton. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. But again, like I said, I doubt it's anything, but who knows? Maybe we can track that down. Oh, and so this one's good. So this is NBC, fake news NBC, taking orders from the FBI on what it will report in regards to the JFK assassination. So on 12/10/63, S.A. Robert J. Lawson and Gerald P. Reed contacted Murray, assistant producer and director of the forthcoming NBC documentary on Lee Harvey Oswald. Protect Murray S.'s identity. NBC preparing documentary to be televised as soon as Bureau's report RE the assassination is made public. Murray advised, NBC's policy will be to televise only those items which are in consonance with the Bureau report. So, NBC's policy was to only report on whatever the FBI said. And this is back in 1963. So, they've got that's a pretty good track record of propaganda right there. All right. So, here's another interesting thing. Jack Ruby, and I'm not gonna claim it's Mossad or an Israeli conspiracy, but it is interesting to at least note that a lot of people don't know this, but Jack Ruby's real name is Jack Rubenstein. He was Jewish. He was part of like in a way, I guess, the Jewish mafia. And this is an FBI report, or is it FBI or CIA? I think it's FBI, where it says that Jack Ruby, a.k.a. Jack Rubenstein, did travel to Israel from May of 62 to June of 62. So prior to JFK's assassination, yeah, it's at least interesting to note if he was more than just a random guy killing Lee Harvey Oswald out of fury, which I don't think anyone believes. We need to look at things like this. So before anyone freaks out and calls me, names, or the ADL tries to shut me down, this is something we need to look at. And so that is also on my Twitter. And here is, I don't know if you guys have seen this photo before, but this was just a tweet I put up because, if you've seen this photo before, that's Lyndon B. Johnson right there. This is moments after JFK has been killed. Moments after he's been killed. This is Jackie crying her eyes out. They're on Air Force One, and he just got sworn in. And look at that grin on this guy. Big shit-eating grin, and he's winking. And you can't see his face, but you can tell that he's smiling. And no, I'm not like, I can just tell. No, you can tell. You can see his cheeks have risen. Trust me, I make 3D models of people's faces all the time. I know the muscle structure of faces, and especially with a guy who's older like this, where his skin is saggy, you can tell what muscles are contracted. Trust me, I know the muscles of the face very well. And he's got a big shit-eating grin. Even his wife kind of has an inappropriate look on her face, given the. But that guy's definitely smiling and winking. So again, you got to look at it. You got to look at it this way. No matter what happened, no matter who was conspiring, literally, no matter who was conspiring, right? No matter who it was, Johnson would have to know. Johnson would have to be, LBJ would have to be in on it, no matter who shot Kennedy. Or what would be the point? Oh, we're going to kill Kennedy, but then we'll have this other guy that, we're going to pull off the craziest, literally, the most dangerous operation ever. We're going to kill an American president on American soil, and we don't have the vice president in our pocket. We're just going to roll the dice and hope that he's better. No. No matter who killed him, for whatever reason, Johnson would have to be in on it. And I've always thought that photo, while obvious, picture says 1,000 words, right? So that is why that is there. I don't think a lot of people know this photo exists. I'm trying to find a better res version. I'll be making a video, by the way, and posting it to my YouTube that goes, I just wanted to do a live stream, especially because there is some misinformation. There's some fake documents floating around. I just kind of wanted to go over the real ones that we wanted to talk about. And here's that's just the link, but we've already gone over that one before. So this one was found by William Craddock, and basically they're talking about there's a lot of okay. So this one, I don't know why I honestly don't understand his tweet, why he's talking about the cover. Well, maybe it has to do with the cover. But this tweet says that Ned Touchstone, look at the bottom, it's the last paragraph. Ned Touchstone, editor of the Counselor, has been identified as a confidential informant as a member of the original Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. The source advised that in December of 1963, that Touchstone claimed that the Klan had documented proof that President Johnson was formerly a member of the Klan in Texas during the early days of his political career. Now, this would not be an unusual thing. This would not... Democrats started the KKK. Okay? Democrats started the KKK. Johnson was a Democrat. The timeline fits. So the idea that Johnson, who had no problem dropping the N-word, as we know, would be a member of the KKK, really adds up. So, and by the way, this also ties into some of these other groups that we're talking about that might have been involved in terms of engineering this assassination. So, the idea that Johnson is in the KKK, not hard to swallow whatsoever. Okay, so this is very relevant because that means that at the time, 1964, a guy who was verified by the FBI as someone that was a member of the original Knights of the KKK is telling them that, and telling an informant that doesn't know that he's talking to law enforcement, right? That LBJ was in the KKK. So LBJ was in the KKK. Kind of a big deal, right? All right, coming up next here, we have a British reporter that got a phone call about the assassination 25 minutes before the assassination actually happened. I'm just going to sum this one up because it's not super crazy. Oh, it's crazy, but you know, this reporter basically said they got a phone call 25 minutes before the assassination actually happened that said there's going to be something big, call the American embassy. And then they were like, okay, that's whatever. And then the assassination took place. And so after the assassination was reported on the news, they were like, oh, holy shit. You know, we got this phone call telling us to call the American embassy. There's going to be something big happening, and we don't know if it's tied together. So that they called British intelligence. British intelligence said, you know, they worked out the timeline and figured out the call really was 25 minutes prior to JFK being shot. So someone, or either they got really lucky on a prank call. Oh, the document also stated that journalist had never received a call like that before. So it wasn't like, oh, we're always getting these weird calls. Oh, something's going to happen. Like anyone that's on the internet is probably used to lots of predictions all the time, and a broken clock is right twice a day. And so the assumption was it was important enough that British intelligence, told the FBI about it. So that's just an intelligence report about that. So here's another one. So this is that same document that I was talking about before, where the FBI informant Pena in New Orleans was talking about Oswald being an FBI informant. So the link for that is right there. Okay, so this is another one that's going to ruffle some feathers. Okay, all right. I'm just saying this stuff's relevant. Okay, and to be fair, this particular document that we're going to talk about. It's from a list of reports that the Secret Service got in response to threats to the president, right? So it's actually full, like literally half of it is, it'll even say paranoid schizophrenic, crazy person, whatever. And because, they get threats all the time. I was also, we'll go into that later. But anyway, so this particular one, however, it is not a crazy person. In term, like if you actually chase down these names and chase down, like the names check out, this guy checks out. So we have Homer Echevarria. He basically worked for an anti-Castro Cuban group and told the confidential informant the day before Kennedy was assassinated that he needed machine guns. So here we go. I'll just read it. November 1963, informant advised Chicago office that the subject was a member of an anti-Castro Cuban group. Subject allegedly approached informant to provide machine guns for Cuban revolution. 11/21/63. Subject allegedly told informant, "We now have plenty of money. Our new backers are Jews. As soon as we, or they, take care of Kennedy." Subject expressed favorable attitude towards LBJ. Okay, now what's interesting is investigation by Chicago office did not disclose any violation under our jurisdiction, and checkups never initiated. Subject not interviewed. So, what the hell? What the hell? I mean, doesn't matter if the guy was trying to buy machine guns. You have a guy who's trying to buy machine guns from an FBI confidential informant, mentions before the president is assassinated that, oh, we're going to take care of him. It's all good. We got money from some Jew guys. It's cool. He gets killed the next day. No big deal. Secret Service never follows up. Whatever. No big deal. So that is pretty, I think, significant. I did a little research on who this guy is. One of the funny things, and people always like to talk about how the Simpsons predict things, right? This guy's name is Homer, and he worked for Simpson Oil. So I didn't make that up. It's easy to remember, right? So if you're going to do some research, Homer Echevarria. He worked for Simpson Oil in Cuba, and then, guess where? Dallas. That's right. He worked for a Cuban oil company, or at least an oil company that operated in Cuba, and then also in Dallas. So, chew on that one for a little bit. All right. So, next up, this is another fake news kind of reference, if you will. This one was found, or at least I found it from this guy. I will red pill you. Let's see here. Genuine concern has recently expressed about CIA relations with newsmen and churchmen. The agency does not believe there has been any impropriety on its part in the limited use made of persons connected in some way with American media, church, and missionary organizations. Nonetheless, CIA recognizes special status afforded, blah, blah, blah. So basically the CIA is saying, yeah, we've compromised journalists and we've compromised preachers and missionaries, but we don't think it's bad. We don't think it's bad. And so we don't want to talk about it because people will think it's bad, but it's not bad. We just can't tell people because they're too stupid. See, and now that's something that's important, by the way. That's something that's really important to think about, is the fact that that's the attitude of the federal government. Okay, that what we're doing is just fine, but if people knew, they would flip out. But that's just because people are idiots and they don't see the genius behind what we're doing. If they could see the genius behind of what we're doing, then it would be fine. People would be okay with it. That's not okay. That's not okay. And that is the attitude of the CIA. That is why we didn't get the full document drop yesterday. So it's an attitude that persists today. It's something that it's just the way they think. They think that we're too stupid. It's the you can't handle the truth. It's literally that attitude. And it's something that's got to stop. It has to stop. So, I understand the need for some secrecy, but this attitude of, it just needs to stop. And then here it gets a little more specific. They're talking about the CIA employed some 40. This is back then when there wasn't an internet, okay? This is back before there was an internet. So 40's a lot. 40 journalists who doubled as undercover contacts. Okay? So, kind of significant that back in I actually think these are different documents. I think this one, because I'd come across this one too. And I think this was dated somewhere in the 70s, believe it or not. Okay, so this is another one. And I'm going to bring up this whole file so you can kind of see. there is some context, and I know this is hard to read, so I'm going to go ahead and do my best to read the important part. Really, it's a little okay. So I'll bring up the whole document because it's going to be a little bit easier to understand if you see this whole document. So this right here is J. Edgar Hoover again, and it's a little weird that it's only classified as secret, but this is J. Edgar Hoover talking to, who is it? I don't know, someone, but some field agent here. And they're basically discussing how Ruby killed Oswald. And J. Edgar Hoover, now I'll tell you, just to be honest, because I don't want to like make stuff up, because there's already enough made up stuff out there. This is still spooky, and for the reasons that the guy who tweeted out said. But I need to give you a little bit of context here. So this is J. Edgar Hoover is saying in a letter that, we told the Dallas cops. First of all right. So I'll just get out what I'm beating around the bush on here. He asserts 100% we know Oswald did it, and we know Ruby killed Oswald, and it was because Ruby was mad. All right. So that's J. Edgar Hoover just saying that. But you got to remember a couple things. One, this is only secret. It's not top secret. It's easy to get a secret clearance. Trust me. And let's see here. Letter goes on to talk about the Dallas police. So here's where it gets interesting. There's two things in this letter. He talks about how, and I'll paraphrase. This is really long. But you can, again, check out my Twitter. You can look and read it up if you don't believe what I'm telling you. But he essentially says the Dallas cops knew that this was a security threat. They knew, and we told them again and again, people are going to try to kill Oswald. You have to have good security to get when you transport him, and we might even have to try him in a different jurisdiction for him to get a fair trial. So make sure you keep him safe, yada, 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 yada. And obviously he doesn't, they don't, he gets killed. And so now they talk about how they said that and how they're raging mad that, we told them and then this happened. But here's where it also gets weird. So not only do we now know that the Dallas police were warned, which, I think they knew that already. But this is where it gets weird. The thing I am concerned about, and let me put this back on the screen for you. The thing that I am concerned about, and so is Mr. Katzenbach, is having something issued so we can convince the public that Oswald is the real assassin. Okay? Katzenbach thinks that the president might appoint a presidential commission of 3 outstanding citizens to make a determination. Something countered with a suggestion that we make an investigative report to the Attorney General with pictures, laboratory work, etc. Then the Attorney General can make the report to the President, and the President can decide whether to make it public. I felt like this was better because there are several aspects which would complicate our foreign relations. For instance, Oswald made a phone call to the Cuban embassy in Mexico City, which we intercepted. It was only about a visa, however. There's documents more on that. That aspects of it sounds like a nothing burger in terms of that phone call to the embassy and all that, whatever. But here, the interesting part is, let's see. The thing that I am concerned about, and so is Mr. Katzenbach, is having something issued so we can convince the public that Oswald is the real assassin. Okay? Now I want you to listen to that wording. Okay, that's the FBI is saying, the director of the FBI is saying his main concern is convincing the public that they have the real assassin. Not not determining if they have the real assassin, not solving the issue of whether, not proving that they have the real assassin, but convincing the public they have the real assassin. That's pretty interesting language. And it sounds pretty deliberate. And so I think that's an important find. All right. Moving right along. We got another one. My voice is actually getting a little scratchy because I usually don't talk this much. Here we go. Informant related that statements concerning the assassination of President Kennedy by individuals previously active in the FPFC declare that the president was actually assassinated by police officer Tippit, and that 1 week before the assassination, that the patrolman Tippit, the Dallas head of the John Birch Society, and an unnamed third party suggested that by these FPFC individuals as possibly being Oswald were together in Jack Ruby's nightclub. All right, so I'm going to simplify that for you a little bit because there's a lot of reading and stuff you have to do to understand what the hell that is even talking about. Essentially what it's saying is, and if you don't know, there was a police officer killed while they were on their manhunt to find Lee Harvey Oswald. He was shot right in the head. It seemed kind of weird. There's a lot of down the rabbit hole theories about that, but what we know for a fact is that officer was the head of the Dallas John Birch Society. Now, that's something I think we're going to be learning more and more about, and JFK researchers have been digging into for decades, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But essentially what this document is saying is that there were, and to give you some context, there were people working with Oswald, and this informant worked with Oswald at one point in time. And after the assassination, it was basically like a communist group. And after the assassination, that communist group was like, oh shit, we got to cooperate with the FBI. This guy was an informant, an FBI informant within that organization, and his report back to the FBI was people that knew Oswald, their understanding was that he was basically just, in many ways, anti-Castro. Again, it's starting to sound like he was a federal agent. So obviously he's going to be interested in anti-Castro groups because it's starting to sound like that the United States was trying to overthrow Castro and that Oswald was part of that operation in some capacity, right? So he is befriending all these groups that are anti-Castro throughout America, and this group this information's coming from is one of those groups. Okay, and the John Birch Society is also anti-Castro, but for different reasons. Okay, they're the so-called, I guess you could say, the ultra-right that the KGB was talking about in their assertion that an ultra-right coup had taken place when they had killed JFK. So the John Birch Society would be instrumental in something like that. And what they're saying is the members of this group were saying that Oswald was seen in a club owned by Jack Rubenstein, a.k.a. Jack Ruby, and that he was with Tippit. So if this is correct, that means you've got Jack Rubenstein, a.k.a. Jack Ruby. You've got Lee Harvey Oswald, a.k.a. We'll get into that. There might be another name for Lee Harvey Oswald. There's a lot of weird a.k.a.s after his name in several of the documents, and then it doesn't say anything afterwards. I don't know if that's formatting. They would just do that, and then if something else came in, they could write it in, but I don't think so. And then Tippit, the police officer that died while looking for Oswald. Okay? So it's a little bit weird that you'd have those three characters all together in the same place, prior to the assassination, unless there wasn't something larger afoot. So that is that. The next thing we got here. Now, this is just something I tweeted out because it's a good example of what I was talking about earlier about missing a lot of pages. So it says right here on the cover page, pages 33. And then as you can see from my screenshot, that PDF was only 3 pages long. And there's a lot of these, where it says, and it's not like a mistake. Like, you can tell there was 33 pages because it hasn't even got going before it's just all of a sudden it's missing lots of stuff. So that's kind of a big deal. Date of last review, 93. Anyway, this is a big one. Subjects, Castro, assassination, CIA, Dulles. You know, this is big stuff, okay? Bay of Pigs, Mafia. And I can assure you, having looked at this document, that none of this stuff is discussed. So we're missing 30 pages of all this. This is kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal that that's missing. Okay? So that's actually, you know what? That's pretty much it for the first batch. I mean, I was up all night going through this stuff, and what I was able to find was that. And, you know, like I said, you can check out my Twitter, @EvilHillaryPicks. I also retweeted it from the BlackPilled Twitter account, so everything, if you follow @Black_Pilled, again, that's mostly just for video releases and stuff like that. I still suggest that you follow both accounts. But my personal one is @EvilHillaryPicks. And so well, it's on the screen. It should be right there, I think. Yeah. So you can follow me on Twitter, and you can check out all the links are on Twitter. And I will make, the BlackPilled videos are always really good and well produced. It just takes a lot of time. And I wanted to get this information out right now. If you've heard other weird things, like there's one, I'm going to bring it up right now in case you guys see it, because it is fake. It's proven fake, and it's maddening that this is getting floated around like it is a legitimate document. It was on the top of our conspiracy. Oh, good. I think they finally took it down. Nope, it's still there. It's like one of the first. It's the biggest document in the conspiracy Reddit on Reddit, and it is fake. Okay, there's no proof whatsoever. So this has been at the top forever, and it's just saying, "Oh, Oswald CIA, this is fake." If you see this, fake. That is fake. It's fake news. All right. So we don't want to do fake news, especially when we're dealing with a subject like the JFK assassination, where there's going to be a bunch of blue-pilled normies thinking that everything's fake anyway. So, all right. That's it for right now. I'm going to work on a video, and I'm going to do some more digging. Thanks for checking out, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube. That's youtube.com/BlackPilled. If you want to donate to the Patreon, that's patreon.com/BlackPilled. In the past tense, BlackPilled. And again, Twitter is @EvilHillaryPicks or @Black_Pilled, and BlackPilled.com, which I haven't updated in a little while, but you can check out. There's a history of documents on there. There's a lot of stuff. People attack it all the time. Like, literally, it gets attacked all the time. And so I'm always having to reboot the server and stuff like that. So, but there's some good info on there. I've hosted a lot of stories, and so it's like a good historic record of some of the stuff we've covered over the last year. So anyway, thanks for checking this out, and have a fantastic day.